Describe your philosophy regarding effective coaching.
I think that the purpose and the role of an instructional mathematics coach is to inform, to guide, and to empower classroom teachers to better develop and implement high-quality instruction with the fundamental goal that that high-quality instruction results in higher levels of student achievement. That's a big mouthful, but each of those pieces relates to my core philosophy. I mean, it is about informing, it's about guiding, and it's about empowering the classroom teacher. It's fundamentally about instruction and all the aspects of instruction. And the result is, when it works, kids learn more mathematics. So I think that my whole belief about what coaches do and should do is informed by a sense that we know people can't do what they can't envision. Well, effective coaching helps people envision it. People won't do what they don't understand. Effective coaching helps people understand. Nobody does anything well if they don't have a chance to practice it. And good coaching gives us opportunities to practice it. Practice without feedback results in almost no gain, and so here we have this situation where a coach can provide feedback, we re-practice it, and it's all done collaboratively. That's the secret.
Would you characterize coaching as a necessary aspect of teaching at this point?
In fact, I would characterize coaching as one of the two absolutely non-negotiable characteristics of this country having any chance of implementing the vision of the Common Core and its practices. I think that what we are asking teachers to do in terms of the shifts in content, the making math work for all kids, the discourse and the productive struggle, and the principles to actions, mathematics teaching practices in an environment where kids are reasoning and persevering and solving problems and constructing viable arguments cannot be done by more than the same 20% of the cohort without collaborative structures and coaching. And I think a coach is indispensable for both of those aspects. The coaching per se and the collaborative structures, the PLCs, and the other planning work that has to go on. Short of that, I think we're just whistling Dixie.
I'm glad you brought up non-negotiables, though. Mm-hmm. So what would you consider to be some non-negotiables of any effective coaching program?
Respect, co-teaching, debriefing, and action plan, in that order. The non-negotiable is that if there is not mutual respect and an understanding of how hard it is to do what we're asking people to do, people talk about trust and relationships and all that kind of stuff. It requires respect, and I think coaches build respect when they co-teach, when they co-plan, when they say, look, I'm here to help you, and that's all I'm here to do. I think that we earn that respect, and people go, whoa, this person can help, when we actually co-teach. Nothing drives me crazier than the unassertive, back in the room, just like an evaluator, coaching, where I'm taking all these notes, and I'm doing a debrief afterwards, and I'm not actively engaged in the lesson. So I think that the co-teaching aspect of taking over, of sometimes failing, is the key aspect of building that respect and admiration. And then none of this makes any difference if after all that we don't sit down and carry on a professional debrief, a discussion about what worked, what didn't, engaging the teacher in reflection about what he or she did, what worked, with the guidance and with the input from a coach. And then on the basis of all that, I think we stop and say, so what two things? That's all. What two things do you worry about? Do we work on? Do I come and look at next week? What is it that you're going to focus on? Because otherwise it's completely overwhelmingly hard to do. So those to me are the non-negotiables. If you are coaching and you are not working your tail off to earn the respect of the people you coach, if you are not actively engaged in the classroom in a range of ways that support instruction and give you something to talk about, and if you're not conducting a debrief that has a teacher going, whoa, that was the best professional development I've ever had, and if you don't follow that up with an action plan that allows me as the teacher to have a handle on something that's manageable that I know is worth doing for my kids, there you go.
let's talk about collaboration as one of
Okay.
the themes from
Yep.
its time. I guess what aspects of professional collaboration do you believe can and should possibly be supported by coaches?
Every single bit of it. I think that the coach is the math expert. It's why I do not believe in generic instructional coaches. I think that you have to have a language arts coach and a math coach in every single elementary school, every middle school, and every high school. And that they are not evaluators, they are support people. They may teach a little as well, but you cannot ask someone who is a generic coach to provide the kind of guidance that's necessary in both the classroom coaching as well as in the collaborative structures. And so for me, I frankly don't care whether it's just PLCs or it's course committees or it's grade level meetings or it's gallery walks or it's lesson study or it's data analysis or it's any of the range of things, activities, models for collaboration. Pick one that you're comfortable with. Pick one that you, make your assistant superintendent happy that you're doing. But make it meaningful. Focus on teaching and learning, and I think that the coach is an indispensable player in that. I don't think coaches should be running professional learning communities, grade level meetings, and course committees, but I certainly think that they should be part of that discussion. A coach has, while teachers are teaching, coaches have the luxury of finding resources, of being able to cross-pollinate. A coach that's been in 18 classrooms can say, you know what, I'll take your class tomorrow, okay? Just tell me what you're gonna do, and I want you to go down to Bart's class, because Bart is doing those things, and then the three of us are gonna meet after school. That, to me, is collaboration facilitated by the coach in the best of all possible ways. I did some work in Bay City, Florida, Fort Walton Beach, Panama City, and in the whole large room, we had the elementary principals and the elementary math coaches conferring and spending a half an hour building a set of collegial visits and follow-up and negotiating the structures of faculty meetings so it was more about teaching and learning. That's a coach who is, inserting himself or herself into the operations of the school and fostering those kinds of collaborative structures.
I was going to ask you about strategies, but you just listed
You got
off
it.
quite a few of them. So
Yeah.
let's talk about challenges, though.
Okay.
In this collaboration atmosphere, what are the most challenging aspects, do you think, for teachers in particular?
I don't think there's any question. The most challenging thing for teachers is, where does this fit? Why am I being coached? This is different. I mean, I'm used to people coming into my classroom only to evaluate. People coming in to help me, people coming in and co-teaching with me, people from the back of the room saying to the kids, really, why is that? How do you know? Can you explain that? All of a sudden, I have to figure out where this fits. Do I listen to them? Is this aligned with my principle? And so that challenge of figuring out that, wow, this is a valuable resource that can make my life harder because I'm being asked to do more, but easier because now I'm giving guidance. And every teacher I know is looking for substantive strategies, not little tricks, to enhance their teaching, particularly their teaching of mathematics, and particularly the elementary level where they're reading specialists and where math is not always their favorite thing, and they're desperate for some kind of help, but they're not sure where it fits. And so the challenges I think teachers deal with is that, where does it fit in? Do I really have to listen to this person? Should I listen to this person? And then delimiting the range of things to the two things I'm going to focus on for the next month, the two things I'm going to act on. And that's a challenge because people want to do it all.
Well, let's return to strategies real quick here. That's a very complex idea to get across to teachers. Are there any strategies you found particularly effective in bridging that gap?
Yeah, so I think that every single debrief needs to be followed up with a written report. I know it's time consuming, but I want a record. I want a record of our conversation. I want it to acknowledge the positive things, the cool things, the impressive things in the class, and to lay out in brief terms the concerns and lay out what are the next steps. And I think that we have a strategy to help teachers focus by a report that speaks to teaching and learning and practical kinds of strategies. And so when there is an action plan and we talk that thing through in our debrief and I put it in writing and I end by saying, thank you again for the opportunity to work with you. I look forward to coming back to your class next week. That makes it a little easier for the teacher to focus. And the option is always email me, call me if that's not clear. Email me if you're struggling, if in fact you're so overwhelmed with all kinds of other things. I'm here to help you help kids. And so the other thing that I think helps coaches is a very fundamental mindset that you work for the kids. I am so tired of coaches telling me they don't know whether they work for the teachers or for the principal or for the assistant superintendent or the math coordinator. Frankly, a coach in a school works for the kids. Your job is to do whatever it takes to improve the quality of mathematics teaching and learning for kids. And in some ways that means saying, I think that's a pretty stupid thing to do to an administrator. Sometimes it says to a teacher, watch that worksheet. We just videotaped 10 minutes of a mindless waste of time because all you have is kids answering questions with no why, no how do you know, and no learning going on. I mean, that's saying, I work for the kids and the kids are being hurt in this or the kids are being screwed in this. And I think when that's the mindset of coaches, it makes their lives much more fulfilling and much more impactful.
I've heard it said that truth to power is often a really difficult thing for a lot of people. And so I guess let's turn this on its head and say, are there any other challenges for coaches in this process that you might see?
Well, yeah, coaches have to realize that in so many ways, we are creating and flying the plane at the same time with passengers who either don't want to be there or don't know why the hell are on the plane. So that's a challenge, dealing with the fact of, I want answers, I want to know what to do, and we don't have all those answers. I think the other challenge is that we put coaches into some of the most dysfunctional schools, and I'm convinced that there is a role for a literacy coach, there is a role for a mathematics coach, but only in a school where there's some possibility of something happening. And the most dysfunctional schools are places where we need a leadership coach. We need to build the structures in the school and have them in place. We have to have a school where it's conducive for teachers to learn before a coach can have any impact. And so one of the frustrations is a coach being thrown into a situation where there's not a chance that they can succeed because the school is completely dysfunctional. And we just have to say, wait a second, those 20% of the schools are not places where you put a coach and waste those resources until that school has a chance to succeed. If kids are all over the place, if kids are acting out, if there's no discipline stuff, if in fact there is a complete disorder and no vision, no common understandings, a coach can't solve those kinds of problems.
And we're talking about some things that are sometimes within and sometimes without the coach's control. But let's talk about administrators for a moment.
Okay.
What is their role, if you could, in their...
To support everything that a coach does when the coach is right, and that's most of the time. I mean, the administrator ought to say, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I've got another resource in my school to help me look good. I've got another resource in school. So in fact, a smart principal builds a working relationship with the coach, and it makes it clear to everyone that that's your go-to person when you've got questions about math. That's the person who's going to help you, and we do not talk about anything other than completely god-awful situations. Anything short of that, it's none of my business. You work that out with the teacher and with the coach and all that stuff. A principal who's smart uses a math coach to help with faculty meetings. Uses the coach to deal with the problem PLCs. Every school I'm in, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, for example. Every middle school, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. Each team has a different personality. 3 people in 6th grade, 3 in 7th grade, 3 in 8th grade, and there are distinctly different personalities in those things. The principal recognizes that 7th grade is the outlier team. Well, the coach videotapes the 6th grade PLC for 10 minutes and plays that for the 7th grade PLC. I've seen it done with 2nd grade teams with the 2 young whippersnappers who are eager and believe in this and they collaborate and all that stuff, and they whip a team of 6 veterans into shape. And the 5th grade team in the same building sits there and go, what a waste of time. We know what we're doing, as they sit there and they just turn to 1 to 19 odd. Well, a coach says, I'm sorry, 5th grade, but this is not working. And the sixth grade is legitimately complaining about the kids coming in and not being up to speed. I want you to see what second grade is doing, because we're going to work together, and with the support of the principal who sits in that PLC that day and says, yeah, gang, okay, our scores are not what they should be. You guys are just ignoring all this stuff. You don't think it makes any sense, and we're going to make some changes. That's the way in which we make a difference.
And I've heard you talk about, in this interview so far, the coaching cycle, if you will, the pre-conference, the observation. Is there anything you would recommend to new coaches? Because a lot of these coaches are just teachers who are making that transition. Is there anything you would mention to them as maybe a structure that might help them moderate those meetings?
I think that in fact what you do is you ignore the pre-conference for a while. That in fact what you want to do is get the lay of the land, and you don't really care what all that stuff is. You're not there to go plan it. You want to see what it is at base level, naked, raw, great, not so great, and everything like that. And so I don't burden people with the pre-conference until we have established the relationship. So therefore, your whole job is the classroom observations, you have to stay the entire class. We are not doing 10-minute walkthroughs. These are not evaluative visits. These are coaching visits, and don't sit in the back of the room with a clipboard. But when it's appropriate, ask why. When it's appropriate, draw a picture on the board. When it's appropriate, follow up. When it's appropriate, say, hey, you know what? I think I'll try doing the next problem. It's sitting right there. And we capture some of that. The coach can take out their iPad and just put it on video mode and capture the coach doing some of those things. And then carefully write the kind of notes that allow you to have a meaningful debrief. And just leave it at that. Those two aspects. Practice that, get comfortable with that. And then with some teachers who are struggling with tasks or struggling with the learning goal, then a pre-conference makes sense in some ways. So that's the way I think we can delimit it, and that would be my advice to beginning coaches. Focus on the classroom and the conversation.
To wrap it up here, I guess, then what questions might you pose to coaches or people running coaching programs that might give them something to consider as they move forward talking about the things that we just talked about?
One, I look coaches straight in the eye and ask, why are you doing this work? Why are you coaching and not being back in your 5th grade or your 7th grade or your 12th grade classroom? Talk to me. Talk to me about why you said yes to this new and often untenable but such filled with potential role. And I hope that the answer to that is, I think I have something to offer. I think that I can help my colleagues. I think I can share some of my wisdom, and I think I have the temperament to be able to make a difference, not just for a class of kids, but for a school of kids. I ask, so what are you really trying to accomplish? That general question, it's almost like an interview, but I want people to be comfortable in recognizing that what I'm trying to accomplish is raising the quality of instruction, the teaching in this school, in order to engender a much higher level of student achievement. It's recognizing that there are too many missed opportunities, there are too many wasted times, there are too many activities that are not used effectively and stuff like that. That's what I want a coach to feel like they can do and make a difference with. I ask a coach, so who do you perceive to be your boss? Just look me straight in the eye and tell me, who is your boss? Is it the principal? Is it the math coordinator? Is it the assistant superintendent? Is it the teachers? Or I want you to tell me. And if not, I want to have a discussion with you about why I think it's the kids. Why there are 400 kids in your school and they are your boss because they are also your client. And then I think we have to then talk about the whole issue of, so what do you focus on? How do you decide what's important and what to focus on? And that's an individual discussion that is based upon what is actually the situation in the school.
Is there anything in particular you'd recommend to help focus that conversation about what to focus on?
Yeah, I think that just as we talk about collaboration, the biggest problem with all administrators or with all coaches is the lack of an opportunity to collaborate. And so I think that coaches need to meet once a week on Fridays and do coach professional development. They need to share what worked, what didn't work. They need to sometimes spend the day together with each other. I mean, we just do this divide and conquer. I want coaches to bring videos that they took and have a collegial discussion about, so how could I have handle this differently. I mean, and we grow as coaches in the same way that we're asking teachers to grow. And so I think that that notion of coaches have to be able to envision what a debrief looks like. Coaches need to be able to envision what this co-teaching looks like. Coaches need to be able to envision what a good debrief is like. All of that stuff ought to be done collaboratively as we grow together and laugh together about, you know, the crazy things that go on when we actually do this.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you being
My
here
pleasure.
today.